You've probably driven past a shop in your town 100 times. Maybe it's an HVAC repair company, a print shop, or a local plumbing business. You've never been inside, you don't know the owner, and you don't think twice about it. Then one day, you drive by and there's a piece of paper taped to the glass. It says, "After 34 years, we're closing our doors. Thank you for everything." You might feel a little sad. You might think, man, times are tough. Another small business couldn't make it. But you would be completely wrong. That business didn't fail. The owner, let's call him Benny, is 67 years old. Both of his work vans are fully paid off. His business was clearing enough profit every single year that you would need a $2.8 million investment portfolio just to match it. Benny didn't go bankrupt. He didn't sell it. He just turned it off like a light switch. 9 out of 10 small businesses like Benny's are ending exactly that way right now. Meanwhile, you and everyone else are arguing over who gets to inherit the money from the so-called great wealth transfer. We've all seen the headlines. Economists are projecting that $124 trillion is about to change hands as the baby boomer generation passes their wealth down. If you've ever suspected that this massive pile of money wasn't going to include you, you were right. Today, we're going to look at why the inheritance you're waiting for is a myth. But more importantly, I'm going to show you where the real wealth is actually going and how everyday, regular people are stepping in to claim it. Let's start with the big, flashy number, $124 trillion. Baby boomers hold over half of all household wealth in America. It sounds like a parade is about to show up at your front door with a giant check. But let's look at what actually happens to that money on the way down to you. First, we subtract the top 1%. Their wealth vanishes into foundations and irrevocable trusts. You'll never see a dime of it. Now your $93 trillion is down to $60 trillion. Next, subtract what they spend in retirement. It turns out living is expensive. $60 trillion becomes $44 trillion. Now subtract taxes, fees, and the money left to charities or churches. We're down to $36 trillion. Of that, only a tiny fraction actually gets injected into the economy. The rest just moves from an older person's brokerage account to a slightly younger person's brokerage account. And statistically, none of those accounts belong to you.
Let's bring this down to your household. About 7 out of 10 Americans will receive absolutely nothing in inheritance, ever. And if you are in the lucky 30%, the median age you receive it is 58 years old. You get the money at the exact age when you're already staring down your own retirement. Even then, the wealth is top-heavy. The bottom 50% of the country splits just about 1% of the inheritance money. The reality is, the wealth transfer isn't a lottery you might win. It's a hereditary system. But what about the family house? Surely you get the house, right? Let me introduce you to the real beneficiary of the family home, the American healthcare system. A private room in a nursing home costs a median of $129,000 a year. Medicare does not cover long-term custodial care. Medicaid only kicks in once the assets are gone. So that paid-off house you're banking on, it has a second bidder, and it's a facility with a very patient billing department. Bottom line, the check isn't coming. But here's the good news. What is coming is actually 1,000 times better. When the wealthiest generation in history exits, they don't just hand over assets, they vacate positions. They stop working. They stop running the companies you buy from. And the beautiful thing about a vacated position, it doesn't care who your parents were. In 2025, we hit what demographers call peak 65. A record 4.1 million Americans turned 65. That is over 11,000 people clocking out permanently every single morning before you even finish your first cup of coffee. Why does this matter to you? Because every one of them was competing with you for something. Let's talk about Desmond. Desmond is 29 years old. For 6 years, he worked for our guy, Benny, as an apprentice out of one of those paid-off vans. Over the last 2 years, without switching jobs or heavily negotiating, Desmond's pay skyrocketed. If you work in the trades, this is your demographic reality. We are looking at a shrinking labor force. For the first time in American history, more workers will leave the economy than enter it. Fewer people competing against you means your wages rise, your bargaining power explodes, and employers need you desperately. The math is simply bidding for your labor. But the labor shortage is just the smaller half of what's happening. The bigger half is happening right down the street from you. By 2035, roughly 6 million American small and medium-sized businesses are going to face an ownership transition as their founders retire. More than 1 million of these are incredibly viable candidates for a sale.
More than half of all small business owners in the U.S. are over 55. 1 in 4 is over 65. The average American small business is closer to getting a hit replacement than a Series A funding round. And remember the statistic I mentioned at the very beginning? 92% of these small business exits happen through closure. Only 5% are actually sold. We have built an economy so ruthlessly efficient that we are deleting hundreds of thousands of profitable, cash-flowing businesses every year simply because nobody wants to fill out the paperwork to take them over. Half of these owners have no succession plan. Their kids went to college to become software engineers and marketing managers. They don't want to run a roofing company. So Benny turns 67, tapes a sign to the window, and walks away. The value of that business evaporates on a Friday afternoon. But what if you were the one who walked in before he taped up that sign? Let's run Benny's numbers, because this is where regular people are going to get rich. The median American small business that changes hands sells for about $350,000. That's less than a starter home in almost any city you'd actually want to live in. The median cash flow, the money the owner pulls out every year, is about $165,000. You might be thinking, I don't have $350,000 lying around. You don't need it. Enter the SBA 7A loan. The Small Business Administration will finance up to 90% of the purchase for you. On a $350,000 business, your required down payment is just $35,000. And under current rules, a chunk of that can even come from the seller financing it themselves. That is 90% financing, a phrase your mortgage lender will never use when you try to buy a house. So you put down $35,000. You borrow $315,000 over 10 years. Your loan payment is about $51,000 a year. Take the $165,000 the business makes, subtract your $51,000 debt payment, and you are left with $114,000 in pure cash flow in your first year. To get that same $114,000 a year in passive income from the stock market, you would need $2.8 million saved in an index fund. For most Americans, saving $2.8 million takes a lifetime. By buying a boring local business, you essentially acquire a multi-million-dollar portfolio overnight for the price of a used Honda Civic.
Now, before you open a new tab and try to buy the nearest laundromat with 35 grand, let's do a reality check. This isn't passive income. An SBA loan requires a personal guarantee. If the business fails, they can come after your house. Furthermore, a lot of these businesses are the owner. If Benny leaves, you have to make sure his customers don't leave with him. You aren't buying a money machine. You are buying yourself a very demanding job that comes with massive financial leverage. But if you're willing to work, the opportunity is unparalleled. The story you are sold is that a massive wave of money is coming and you just need to stand still and wait for it to hit you. That was a lie designed to keep you complacent. Waiting is the only guaranteed losing move. The real wealth transfer isn't happening in trust funds or wills. It is happening at the labor market. It is happening at commercial real estate lots. It is happening at kitchen tables, where parents are helping kids buy homes now rather than leaving it in a will later. None of this requires you to be born into the right family. All it asks is that you are awake at the right moment. Look around. Within 20 miles of where you are sitting right now, a profitable business is about to get turned off forever. The question isn't, what am I going to inherit? The real question is, are you going to be there when Benny's ready to hand over the keys? If you want to learn more about how to find these businesses and evaluate them, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments, are you waiting for a payout or are you looking for your local Benny? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.